Good morning, everyone. Britain has become the first country in the world to approve an antiviral pill designed to fight COVID-19. Ian Lee has that story from London.
For Anne-Marie Pagan, this little red pill called molnupiravir is a big deal. The UK mother caught COVID earlier this week, and as a cancer survivor, she's more vulnerable to the virus.
It is absolutely a life and death situation. I do have a family that I need to think about, and I need to be here for them.
That's why she's taking the world's first antiviral drug approved to treat COVID-19. Merck originally designed the drug to treat the flu, but found it produces errors in COVID-19's genetic code, which stops the virus from replicating.
To have a drug like this, to have an antiviral that's potent, that's able to be taken orally, is a very important moment and does mark a milestone.
Global trials show molnupiravir cuts the risk of hospitalization or death by half for high-risk patients. Here in the UK, the pill has been approved for people with at least one risk factor for COVID, including being over 60, obese, or having heart disease. Studies found molnupiravir is most effective when taken within the first 5 days of symptoms appearing. Unlike current COVID therapies like monoclonal antibody treatment, which require a hospital visit, this pill can be taken at home. British doctors expect it to be a game changer in fighting the pandemic.
They can be mass-produced and distributed across the world, and that's very important for equitable global access to life-saving treatments.
If the FDA gives the green light, molnupiravir could be available in the U.S. as early as next month. Ian Lee, CBS News, London.
Pfizer has also developed an antiviral drug to fight COVID-19, and trials show it cuts the risk of hospitalization or death by 89%. It's still waiting for FDA approval. A major improvement in the job market. Businesses are adding more workers, including companies involved with the busy holiday shopping season. Anthony Pura has more on that.
Stephen Mykrit recently moved to sunny California from Illinois and just got a job making deliveries for UPS.
I get to be outside every day in this beautiful weather, and I am no longer in the office.
Mykrit is part of a hiring increase. U.S. employers added 531,000 jobs in October, the most since July. The unemployment rate dropped from 4.8 to 4.6%.
I think economists are pleased with this report. Shows a nice bounce back after somewhat weakened reports in the previous 2 months.
Good morning.
The president welcomed the new numbers.
I would humbly suggest this is a significant improvement from when I took office and a sign that we're on the right track.
There was hiring across several sections of the economy, including construction and the restaurant industry. Shipping companies also added workers and are looking for more help. UPS is holding job fairs across the country. The company plans to hire more than 100,000 seasonal workers, just one of many businesses ramping up employment ahead of the holidays. Amazon and Walmart both want 150,000 workers. Target is aiming to bring on 100,000, and FedEx needs 90,000 for the busy shopping and shipping season. Mykrit's job is only temporary for the holidays. This is your foot in the door.
Yes, this is my foot in the door.
He's hoping it will lead to a permanent position, and that is possible. UPS says about a third of their seasonal staff are hired for full-time jobs. Anthony Pura, CBS News, Ontario, California.
All right, when we come back, a look at how climate change is changing the lives of one group of Californians. Mid-morning, we'll be right back. All right, we're back. More than 40 countries are pledging to phase out the use of coal power, but the U.S. is not part of the pact. One focus of the summit has been protecting vulnerable communities from the effects of climate change. Ben Tracy shows us how climate change is forcing a Native American tribe in the Pacific Northwest to move to higher ground.
Water is a big part of us. We usually go sit at the point and usually by that tree. And Elizabeth, she sings songs at the point and it helps a lot of people.
Jaden Black is a student at the Quileute Tribal School on the western edge of the Olympic Peninsula. The tree she mentioned is just barely holding on.
The roots are basically exposed and it looks like it's about to fall into the water.
Yeah, that's sad. That tree's been here a long time.
The Quileutes tribal village, home to about 400 people, is now threatened by the Pacific Ocean's rising waters due to climate change. Storms here are getting more severe, pushing dangerous debris into town and consuming the tribe's land.
My students used to be able to stand about 4 feet that way.
Alice Ryan is the science teacher.
Are you surprised by how quickly this all seems to be happening now?
It's literally taking parts of the Quileute tribe's land and washing it out to the ocean.
The tribe has lost land before. It once called vast swaths of the Olympic Peninsula home until the late 1800s, when the U.S. government confined it to just about 1 square mile right up against the Pacific, land prone to flooding and tsunamis. Students practice evacuating and fleeing to higher ground. And now, with climate change arriving on the doorstep of their school, the tribe is building a new one on top of the hill, far away from those rising ocean waters.
It's sad, and it's going to be really different because this is where a lot of us grew up.
Congress gave permission to use national parkland near the new school for a new tribal village if the Quileute have to eventually abandon dozens of homes near the coast. A fate shared by tribes from Alaska to Florida, who now find themselves forced to relocate.
I'm not going to move unless Mother Nature makes me move.
Ann Penn Charles has lived on the same street in the lower village her entire life. She says to honor her ancestors, she will hold out as long as she can.
That's the toughest thing. You know, we don't want to give up our land. You know, we signed over so much land to stay here.
And now climate change is taking some of that land away. For CBS News, Ben Tracy, La Push, Washington.
Up next, teenagers express themselves through the written word from almost 100 years ago. Mid-morning, we'll be right back. All right, we're back. An essay contest among young people gives us a remarkable insight into a lost history. The recently unearthed essays were written by Jews living in Eastern Europe in the 1930s, right before World War II and the Holocaust. Now the world is getting to hear some of their fascinating stories. Jim Axelrod shows us how they're part of a new graphic novel, Bloomsbury.
The basement, where cartoonist Ken Crimstein offers his takes on contemporary life, is just outside Chicago.
Your chosen method here of communication is not just words, but pictures.
Yes. But lately, his attention's been focused 5,000 miles away on Vilnius, Lithuania, and an essay contest for Jewish teenagers held more than 80 years ago.
What grabbed you?
There were little details in there. This one listened to records, this one went ice skating, and I was like, these are real people.
The contest was sponsored by YIVO, an organization founded in 1925 in Vilnius to preserve Jewish culture.
It was a very fantastic time of dreaming and dreading.
Jonathan Brent is the executive director and CEO of YIVO, now headquartered in New York.
The future was, on the one hand, very optimistically thought of by many people, and on the other hand, the storm clouds were gathering because of the rise of Nazism.
The contest asked teens to describe their lives. YIVO curator Eddie Portnoy.
This is from an anonymous person who signed this Vergess mich nicht, forget me not.
Entries were anonymous to elicit unvarnished takes from the next generation on what their futures might look like.
Here is a real father who abandons a mother. Here is a loving couple. Here is a divorce. Here are all of the problems.
Here is a broad swath of humanity.
Of humanity, exactly.
A winner set to be announced September 1st, 1939, was never named after Hitler invaded Poland that very same day. The Nazis plundered Jewish artifacts, including some of the essays, and shipped them back to Germany, where they were later found by the U.S. Army. Other entries were hidden. In 2017, a bunch were discovered in a church in Vilnius.
I was like, my God, these stories need to be told.
Crimstein pulled 6 for his new graphic novel, When I Grow Up. The eighth daughter, a 19-year-old feminist forbidden to pray for her father when he died.
The guy said to her, you know a woman's prayer isn't worth anything. Her comeback, for the first time I began not to understand God.
The letter writer, a 20-year-old young man reaching out to America for a visa he never got.
What do you think happened?
He probably perished. I shudder to think of what happened to him, actually.
The folk singer who loved music but couldn't pursue it. The boy who liked a girl. The ice skater. And a rule breaker who entered the contest even though she was just 11 and a half.
I did feel an obligation. I didn't have their names, but maybe they could live again.
When the New York Times ran a story on the found essays in 2017, it included a rare picture found on the cover of one.
And so my sister forwarded it to me, and we both looked at it and were like, oh my God, that's Mom.
The rule breaker had a name, Beba Epstein, who survived 3 different concentration camps.
This was a Beba you hadn't known?
Really didn't know her.
5 years after his mother's death, Michael Leventhal discovered much more about her life.
To hear it in the voice of an 11-year-old, that's just something you don't get to do.
Has Beba's family seen your drawings?
They have, and they liked them. Thank goodness.
In telling Beba's story and 5 others whose names we don't know, Ken Crimstein hopes to illuminate what we share and warn us all against making anyone else the other.
You have kids talking about hopes, dreams, challenges. The one thing you never hear these kids consider is annihilation.
Yeah, and who could have? I mean, how can you even, we can't even understand it today.
Jim Axelrod, CBS News.
When I Grow Up comes out on November 16th, published by Bloomsbury. All right, when we come back, a conversation with basketball legend Magic Johnson. That's next. All right, we're back, everyone. Earvin Magic Johnson is one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He won 5 NBA titles with the LA Lakers and an Olympic gold medal with the 1992 Dream Team. 30 years ago, Johnson revealed at a press conference that he had HIV, the virus that can cause AIDS. The news was a bombshell. At the time, the diagnosis was considered a death sentence, really. Gail King spoke with Johnson about his reaction that day and how he got through it with the support of his wife, Cookie.
This man has a smile that lights up a television screen.
Even for Hollywood, it was perfect casting.
Did he make a miraculous shot? Yes. Has he ever done it before? You bet he has.
The man who single-handedly produced magical moments on the basketball court.
Magic fires. It's in. They will. Lakers win the game.
Was at the top of his game when it all disappeared right before our eyes.
A tragic ending to a magical career.
Because of the HIV virus that I have attained, I will have to retire from the Lakers.
Let's go back, Earvin, 30 years. What did you know about HIV before you were diagnosed? Because what we knew was scary.
Right. At that time, the only thing I knew, if you got AIDS, you died, right? And so I had to really learn a lot about the disease, HIV as well as AIDS. I had to make sure that I was open-minded enough to ask a lot of questions, go get a lot of information from different people.
Johnson first learned of his diagnosis after a routine physical back in 1991. He was called back home from a preseason game in Utah so that the Lakers team physician, Dr. Michael Melman, could deliver the news in person.
Went straight to Dr. Melman's office, and then that's when he told me I had HIV.
And when you first heard those words, what was the thought in your mind?
Oh, I was just devastated. I'm asking them 100 times, are you sure? And they said, hey, we ran the test a couple of times, and yes, you do have HIV. And so I just lost it right there. You know, you just sit there and say, what does this mean? Am I going to die? Because I definitely asked him that. And he said, well, you have a chance to live for a long time with all the new drugs that are coming down the pipeline. But the toughest thing, Gail, that I had to do was really drive home and tell Cookie. It was hard because I loved her so much and I hated to hurt her. I played against some of the best basketball players in the world, right? I've been in championships, I've been in 9 finals, so I know pressure. But it was no greater pressure than driving home to tell her. Even today, it's still the toughest thing I've ever had to do in my life.
The Johnsons were married a little over a month when Magic announced his diagnosis, and they had just learned Cookie was pregnant.
The key moment was when Cookie took the test and the results came back that her and the baby was fine.
That must have been a huge relief for you.
Yes,
yeah.
because I was scared to death. I wanted to make sure that she was going to be okay, the baby was going to be okay, and then I could move forward with trying to make sure I was going to be okay.
Yeah.
Irvin Magic Johnson attacked the stigma surrounding HIV with the same passion he displayed on the court, launching the Magic Johnson Foundation to raise awareness about the virus, then pushing Congress and the White House to spend money to fight the disease. But he still longed for the game of basketball, and his first retirement would be short-lived.
Magic!
Even though he had not played a single regular season game, fans voted him onto the NBA All-Star team in 1992. And a few months later, he played on the U.S. Olympic Dream Team.
It proved to be the right decision. It helped people who were living with not just HIV and AIDS, but with any disease that you can live on, you can be and live a productive life.
And there were mixed reviews about you coming back.
Controversy over Johnson's return has erupted in the last few weeks. Even one of his Olympic dream teammates, Karl Malone, expressed fear about having to play against him in the physical, sometimes bloody NBA arena.
How did you feel when there was backlash about you returning with some of the players, when you got hurt?
Yeah, I got cut, and I was very upset at the backlash because I just played with a lot of the guys who didn't want me to come back.
Yeah.
You know, well, I just spent 3 months with you, playing against you, with you, and so now.
But you got cut and that changed the game.
Yeah,
that scared people.
That scared the crowd. You could just hear, I never want to hurt the game, right? So this is a game that I love, and so if the guys are going to be scared, the fans didn't know. So I said, you know what, after that game, I said, I'm just going to retire.
Johnson returned to the sport he loved one more time in 1996.
I told Cookie, I said, you know what, maybe I should look at playing one more time.
And
because I want to end it the right way.
Okay. Because you never felt it ended the right way.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's why I came back. I ended it the way I wanted it to end.
After that, his focus finally began to shift.
Oh, I missed the game. Oh, man. Cookie will tell you. I sit on that couch and watching the Lakers play. That was so hard for me, you know, because I said, I should be out there. But it wasn't until she came home, I tell you, Gail, what changed my life and got me going into business. She came home and said, you know what, Irvin, I'm mad and I'm upset. You got to be the man that I married. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like, you've always wanted to be in business. Why are you sitting on this couch?
Wow.
You got to get started. So get out.
Cookie Johnson remembers that moment too.
I'm looking at you like this, sitting on this couch. That's not the man I married. You know, the man I married was a hard worker. He was changing the world. You know, he had all these ideas. He was so full of life. I don't know who this is. You need to get up and figure that out.
Irvin and Cookie met when they were students at Michigan State University in the 70s. Cookie says at first she did not want to have the press conference announcing his diagnosis.
The stigma with AIDS. At that time, people weren't educated, so they thought you couldn't touch people, you couldn't hug people. And I didn't want people to treat us like we were lepers.
I still remember the press conference. You're sitting there in that white suit. What were you thinking?
I was thinking, you know, be strong, and I wore that white suit for a reason. I didn't want to wear anything dark or black, because to me, it's what it symbolized. And the white suit to me symbolized, you know, brightness, like a future, basically, you know, positivity.
When he told you how he got it, what was your thought?
At that time, when he said, you know, that he had it, and it was probably through sexual contacts, because he didn't have any blood transfusions or anything like that. It wasn't how he got it that was important to me. It was, you're possibly going to die. And that trumped everything.
She really is a living example, Irving, of for better or worse in the marriage vows.
Right.
Don't you think?
Oh, no question about it.
Because for some people, for better or worse doesn't include that, you know?
Right.
Even when we broke up all those times and I was dating other people, I said, I already know who I'm gonna marry.
You did?
Oh, I told all the women that. I know who I'm gonna marry. I said,
I bet you were a fun date. I'm really going to marry her.
They knew I was going to marry Cookie. There's no doubt who I was going to marry.
With Cookie by his side, the 62-year-old basketball legend is a very successful businessman, a loving father and grandfather.
Don't you feel like this is your city?
This is
I do. I feel it's your city.
Oh, yeah.
Today, Johnson runs point in the boardroom as CEO of Magic Johnson Enterprises, an investment company focused on providing high-quality products and services to underserved communities.
Do I dare ask if being a businessman, entrepreneur, philanthropist is better than playing basketball?
Yes.
Is it better?
Yes, it is.
And how is your health today?
Oh, it's great. Still undetectable, and so
Do you have to take medication every day still?
Yes.
Still.
Cocktail once a day. It went from 3 times a day now just once, and so everything is great.
Andy says no matter what, there's one thing his diagnosis decades ago could never defeat.
That situation wasn't going to change my attitude and mindset and the person that I am. Okay, if I was going to die, I was going to die being Irvin Johnson, right?
And what does that mean, being Irvin Johnson?
Just being an upbeat person with a good attitude, and so that's just who I am.
All right, we'll be right back to wrap things up. Stay with us. All right, be sure you stay connected with us. We'd love to hear from you on social media. You can send us an email. We'll see you back here next time.